I am now talking about the 1975 William Shatner and Ernest Borgnine number known as The Devil's Reign. A goofy, sensational, satanic horror picture, The Devil's Reign was directed by Robert Fuest, and it may have killed his career. Following a tremendous run of classic horror titles, certainly of great interest, including Ants in the Darkness, The Abominable Dr. Phibes, The Final Program, and Dr. Phibes Returns, Fuest's American turn was apparently what relegated him to directing telefilms and softcore. The Devil's Reign seems to be quite a maligned film, and it is easy to see why. Its plot isn't wholly comprehensible or engaging. I mean, one has a vague idea of what is happening, but couldn't necessarily articulate how or why. It isn't incredibly scary or atmospheric, it mostly relies on shocking images, and a handful of fairly striking images, in order to justify the viewing experience. Clearly, director Fuest, as well as cinematographer Alex Phillips, were trying to please themselves, compose work that they would be proud of, regardless of the silly material. Also, the fact of the matter is that the interesting content within this film makes up maybe perhaps even half hour of the runtime. When you think about it in perspective, not a huge amount happens in this film. Everything is just stretched out to the point of laboriousness. If one was watching this in a cinema, it might feel boring, although if one can at least stand up and stretch their legs at home, and go into this film expecting it to be potentially horrendous, The Devil's Reign is much more easily tolerable. So perhaps more interesting as a piece of history than as its intended purpose, a terrifying horror film, I will say that the ending of The Devil's Reign is quite creepy and unsettling, and if you happen to have seen the film, I think you might agree. The main plot device of interest in this film is, of course, the rain in the bodies it causes to melt. Very exciting, I will say. One almost gets the impression that if this film had been cast with unknowns, or rather competent unknowns, it would be remembered as a stronger, lesser budgeted horror satanic menace number, rather than a Hollywood attempt to do something, starring actors people recognise like Ernest Borgnine and Tom Skerritt doing silly things amongst silly production values alongside William Shatner, who is still doing fairly silly things as one might expect him to be. If you still find The Devil's Reign disappointing in spite of lowered expectations, I apologise, but otherwise, in my defence, I did warn you.